Michael and Alan and the team giving us the opportunity to be able to present. So hand over to Adam, who's going to do the lion's share of talking, and then hopefully some Q&A time for everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett and Todd, and equally to everyone spending some valuable time today just to tune in and say good day. So very much appreciated. I know time is a valuable commodity, so certainly respect the time that everyone's putting in to hear a little bit more about Medigrowth. I'll share a presentation. As Todd mentioned, Todd's a co-founder. I'm a co-founder as well. We kicked off in 2017. And have had quite an evolution and journey of our business over the course of now many years. But as Todd mentioned, very, very anchored in a relationship to the region, based on a very strong relationship with primarily Deakin University, but many others as well. So I'll share my screen, and then hopefully we can work through some information and hopefully prompt some questions and discussion following. Can everyone see that?
Perfect.
Yeah, terrific. So Medigrowth, as Todd mentioned, 2017, we first incorporated our company, and not long after, a relationship was built with Deakin University, amongst many other pursuits as an early stage company back in that time. Really, we've probably worked through a couple of the introductions, but as we mentioned, Todd and myself as co-founders of the company, very much inspired by the global medicinal cannabis industry, opportunities in research and drug development and novel product development has been part of our original inspiration for being involved in the company. And I think that certainly evolved from initial thoughts on how we can look to serve quality of life and really have a patient-driven outcome from our initiatives in our day-to-day, week-to-week and year-to-year. And that's only been, I think, further really demonstrated over the course of the time in our industry that, you know, the patient-led initiatives and the way we can try and sort of make a difference in our commercial operations for patient outcomes remains to this day very, very focused. A quick sort of overview, and I'm not sure how familiar everybody is in the audience there just on medicinal cannabis, but just a few key points that will probably help throughout the presentation. So medicinal cannabis has now been legal in Australia since 2016, so a number of years under our belt now in terms of a fully regulated and legal medicinal cannabis access. All of those products, or certainly the majority of those products, are unapproved medicines that are prescribed by doctors and dispensed at a pharmacy level through special pathways that were set up as part of that legislation. So a special access scheme, category B, or an authorised prescriber pathway allows patients to access these unregistered medicines that haven't gone through the traditional clinical trial process to be a registered medicine and something that may equally be on the PBS. Recreational and adult use cannabis, as in other parts of the world that may have some degree of legality or full legality, remains illegal in Australia. So everything that we're discussing is a purely medically based focus, and that really falls into products across a wide range of formats, from tinctures and capsules and oils to dried flower for vaporization, topical creams, and a host of other formats that are being prescribed now daily by doctors all over the country. Those products can be CBD and THC, or a combination of those two compounds, and other minor cannabinoids and terpenes within that particular product. And it's important to note that there's a big differentiation between CBD and THC, CBD being the non-psychoactive compound, whereas THC is the psychoactive compound. So whereas medicinal cannabis is often referred to as a global label, there are certainly products that differ quite significantly in their potential outcomes. And they're prescribed and dispensed under Schedule 4, Schedule 8 as prescription and controlled drug medicines here in the country. as well as the potential for Schedule 3, which is a low-dose over-the-counter product. However, there hasn't been any products released into that category as yet because they need to go through the requisite clinical trial regime. The clinical trial positioning is really the ultimate pathway to registered medicines. So to take those products away from an unregistered medicine into a registered medicine. So there are a number of companies, and Medigrowth certainly at the forefront of much of the research trying to drive outcomes to registered medicines. However, many of the medicines that are currently being utilised by patients are showing very good therapeutic benefit. And you can see from some of the stats there that we're now in a market that's quite significant in terms of initiated patient treatments, number of doctors prescribing, 3,000 plus authorised prescribers, for example. And probably most importantly on that slide is the 200 plus indications that have been now approved by the TGA for medicinal cannabis prescriptions. And I think that just really reflects the plethora of ongoing clinical work and clinical research that can be done, hopefully to translate some of those products into longer term registered medicines. And a very quick overview just to that point, there are, as I said, 200 plus indications that have been prescribed under the Special Access Scheme. That slide doesn't reflect them all. It runs for quite some way to the right. But if you look, primarily medicinal cannabis is being prescribed for chronic pain, anxiety, sleep disorders, mental health conditions such as depression and PTSD, but a wide range of additional prescriptions for a very wide patient cohort. And I think that's the incredible thing about the cannabis plant, that it actually has potential therapeutic benefit for a very, very wide range of indications. And that's where, from a Medigrowth perspective, we see a very, very valuable opportunity to really put some validated clinical work into some of those targeted areas. From our perspective, obviously we're very dedicated to the plant that we work with, and it's really a bench to patient research program that we're focused on. We're working with unregistered medicines, we're working on clinical and longitudinal trials, ultimately to service patients in the short term in the unregistered medicine market, and the long term in the registered medicine market. And an overriding theme for us is really that social responsibility as an organisation. Todd and I have built our organisation really from a handshake many, many years ago to now something that we see great potential long-term value for all participants. And it's important to us that social responsibility and environmental responsibility, with even, for example, the reforestation projects that we're involved in, just to ensure that as we grow, we can really stand by the company that we've built. Our licensing obviously entails all of the operations, primarily the Office of Drug Control licensing is important because it does give us a position in the Greater Geelong region, and with our partnership with Deakin University, and for our day-to-day distribution operations, obviously fully licensed by the Office of Drug Control and the requisite state departments for our wholesale storage and supply. And that covers both medicinal cannabis products, but we are also licensed for psilocybin products as well, which is something that we do have a degree of interest. We're not currently actively engaged in research with psilocybin, but given much of the work that we're doing, it may well be something that we incorporate into future research projects. Ultimately, as an organisation, we always have to look at what the problem is that we're trying to solve on a day-to-day, and it's becoming very apparent to us that the way the market is currently situated is the problem is that obviously the access to cannabinoid medicines and medicinal cannabis is via those unapproved and unregistered medicine pathways. So that really ensures that those products are privately funded, they're not on the PBS. So comparatively to PBS products, they're expensive, and really there's only a couple of products that are registered on the ARTG, and prescribers want that robust clinical evidence around the products that they're prescribing, and that only comes from clinical trial work that needs the time put into it to have that validation for prescribers. So in a lot of cases, patients are then discontinuing their treatments, even if they're seeing therapeutic benefit, and it just doesn't really put us into the mainstream as we'd like to see for the medicines that we're dealing in. The solution is simple to say, notwithstanding a little bit harder to do, but the solution really comes with multi-phase clinical trials, no different to any other pathway to a medical product registration. So a phase 1 to 3 clinical trial, working through all the requisite requirements of those trials. And for us, that's something that we're already involved in, again, in collaboration with a number of universities, but primarily Deakin University. And very important to us to have some tech and health tech enabled delivery and patient access programs. And that's something that we've been very focused on for a year or more, in building systems in the digital space to ensure that they will very much supplement our clinical and data capture initiatives. Just looking at the unregistered medicine space, so just a little snapshot of some of the products that we're dealing in. So this is a good example of products that are currently being prescribed for a wide range of indications, back to one of the earlier slides, where many of these products are prescribed across multiple indications, varying patient cohorts, from oil to dried flower to cartridge to a number of different dose formats. And the CBD 100 that you see there as the first product, that's the product that was used in the double-blind placebo-controlled trial that we've been involved in for paediatric autism, in partnership with Deakin and Swinburne University. And it's certainly validating a lot of the work that we're doing, because we're able to have an early look at some of these products and have a look at some of the data sets that are telling us that there's certainly something to be further investigated on a more robust clinical trial pathway. The team we have is still quite lean for an organisation such as ours. Todd and I obviously have been around since day one. We now have a team around us with a range of different skill sets, but we're very focused on, as I said, people, building technology platforms to ensure that we can continue to grow. We have some great sales and regulatory people. Dr. Ash there is our medical science or national medical lead, and very involved in a lot of the work that we're doing. So we've got a great team, some really great people, and some interlock skill sets that we believe will bring much of that research that we're doing together as we continue to grow as a company. Just a quick mention on Ash, I thought it was worth mentioning because she has recently been awarded an affiliate lecturer position at Deakin. So she's our national medical lead, but also now working very closely with some of the research teams out of Deakin, building on her vast experience as a PhD in cannabinoid science and endocannabinoid systems. And from our perspective, really building on much of the data that we're creating from our various research positions. An advisory board, again, very clinically and science-led, and some of the Geelong folks will possibly know some of the names there. Many of them are very closely connected to Deakin, either as present or past academics and contributors to the ecosystem down there at Deakin, and some folks out of the Uni of WA there as well that we're working very closely with, all very invested in Medigrowth success, because I think all of those people see the value of high quality evidence collection for that ultimate pursuit of registered medicines. Our collaborations run far and wide, as I've mentioned Deakin many times, because that's certainly where it started and it's how we're anchored into the Geelong region. But because of that very strong relationship, that's built out to a number of different universities across many different projects that we've been involved in over the course of the several years that we've been very focused on that research side of the business. And if we take a bit of a deeper dive into some of that clinical work, certainly the hero of the work that we're doing at the moment is the paediatric work that we've done with CBD products. So the Medigrowth CBD 100 has been used looking at the behavioural effects of cannabidiol or CBD in autistic children, a randomised double-blind placebo-controlled trial. And that's something that now has gone through phase 1 and 2 with quite positive and significant results coming out of that. So I'll speak more to some of the results there. But certainly something that is very validating from a Medigrowth perspective, because again, it's putting that robust scientific evidence around products that we had anecdotal evidence. Now we're starting to see respect for the products based on high quality data. We've also been running a longitudinal trial in the background, so that's something that again has had Deakin involvement, and the next iteration of that trial will be released before the end of this year, in line with some of our digital health pursuits as well. Now the phase 1 and 2 trial was for 5 to 12-year-old children. 29 children completed that study, and some very, very interesting results that came out of that. As I said, for us, a very positive outcome, because it has certainly demonstrated a potential enhancement of quality of life for those children and families that are looking for some degree of intervention. And the important thing to take away from that trial is that there were significant improvements in anxiety, which we're seeing across a number of different indications, but certainly from a paediatric autism side, it's probably something that's interlaced with that quality of life issue that many of the families are looking for assistance with. So a significant improvement in anxiety, in social relating, and probably goes without saying, but parental stress scores were markedly improved as well, given those two other improvements. So it's inspired us to continue on that pathway, and certainly I know all of the academics that have been involved are very, very motivated to take that trial into the next phase. One of the other partnerships that's come out of, I think, Medigrowth's now quite reliable reputation in the industry for a research-led company was our and continued involvement in the ARC Training Centre for Next Gen Technologies in Biomedical Analysis. It's led from the University of WA and is a government-funded program. Medigrowth is the only medicinal cannabis or cannabinoid biopharmaceutical company that's involved in that particular centre. And we're seeing some incredible work coming out of there based around really the end goal of novel product development, but all the pursuits up to there with some exciting work on cannabinoid bioprospecting and some very cutting edge technology that's allowing those PhDs and academics to work through not only very exciting outcomes, but technology that really is first class. So we're excited to be involved in that, and ultimately the pathway is from this bench to patient focus that we have, is to take work like this that's being done out of ARC Training Centre, work towards novel product development, and then feed that into our clinical trial arm, and namely with partnerships like we have with Deakin, for example, and start utilising some of that data to then build really robust data to take products for registration phase. As I've mentioned a couple of times, our digital side of the business is certainly a very high priority, and something that we've been involved in telehealth and some digital exposure and health tech exposure for 18 months or so in market. We're just in the next phase of our delivery of sort of our version 2 in terms of our digital health tech, and that's Azure Health as a data-driven telehealth platform that's proprietary to Medigrowth, and really looking to be a industry leader in data-driven and research-backed medicinal cannabis and cannabinoid medicine telehealth. We're finding there are a lot of companies and then certainly a lot of telehealth platforms out there. However, there's no one really taking ownership of the fact that anyone involved in that has got a very focused approach to how data is collected, how that can ultimately help patients. And we're very excited to be launching that in the coming weeks, because it will really give us that real world evidence. It will give us great connectivity to GPs and specialists, and I think to those practitioners who are currently not fully exposed to the medicinal cannabis environment because they may not have had the requisite training or exposure to cannabinoid medicines. And we see a great opportunity to really work closely with many of those prescribers on education and really targeting certain patient cohorts that have been underserved in the market to date. Just a little snapshot of right to the beginning of the conversation where Todd mentioned, the early relationship with Deakin, and very much how we see, obviously the very reason we're speaking to the Geelong region and what we can do and how we can continue to position Medigrowth as a leader in the space independently, but also a very collaborative, focused environment for other companies and other industries to integrate into some of the work that we're doing. So if you look at the photo there on the left, our very first integration into Deakin University was the small greenhouse there that you'll see just on the bottom right of that photo. So that was formerly a microherb producer. Medigrowth purchased that asset that was no longer being utilised, and that was some of the very early engagement we had involvement with Deakin on more of an agricultural and low THC research environment. That then moved to research projects on the medical front, and also to the greenfield site that you see just up next to the solar farm there, which is the proposed Medigrowth Centre of Excellence. And that particular facility has been proposed as a GMP manufacturing facility, really utilising the connectivity to university to drive research, to drive manufacturing and novel product development opportunities, and to drive, I guess, really a world-class facility that is an enabler for other companies to utilise its positioning and integration into university and hospital environments. That's had significant work done on it. It's currently a greenfield site, but it's fully licensed by the Office of Drug Control. The town planning approval has been granted by the Geelong City Council, including a cultural heritage management plan that has also gone through the requisite requirements and approvals, and obviously co-located with Deakin. And I think what we envisage there is really the next phase of Medigrowth as we push out our unregistered medicine sales, as we continue to drive research outcomes. We really see a requirement to hold the GMP manufacturing capabilities and sovereign manufacturing capabilities, so we have control over then all moving parts of our business, and ultimately we see that co-located positioning with Deakin to be of great value to both entities. Really, I think there's a lifetime of research to be done on cannabinoids, and from our perspective, we're very excited to continue pushing the pulse on how we can deliver a project of that magnitude and really realise that then the full end-to-end for Medigrowth. A quick sort of snapshot of the corporate environment. As I said, we're still a relatively lean team and organisation. We've raised approximately $6 million since our starting point back in 2018. Certainly from our perspective, that's been a gradual pursuit of sort of incremental development, and it's allowed us at each critical stage really to push forward on each milestone that we've started to deliver on, from product development and brand launching and distribution capabilities, for example, through to the research side of the business. The most recent raise we did was earlier this year, in February of this year, through a crowdsourced funding platform, Virtual, which achieved a fantastic result of 1.5 million, and that's allowed us to continue really pushing our research agenda. And we're currently continuing on our capital raising strategy to ensure that all of our digital health tech and clinical trial pathways can have the support they need to continue building what we believe will be the next phase of drug registrations and ARTG listings, and hopefully for patients, PBS subsidisation, to ensure that those medicines can be very easily and affordably accessed. Some contact details there at the end. We certainly are very welcoming to any collaboration and opportunities that anyone in the group might see. We're very focused on how we can drive legitimacy into the industry that we're in, and we believe that legitimacy comes from all of those organisations that have some influence into healthcare. So for us, trying to look at how we can potentially position with, whether it's non-for-profits or whether it's more hospitals with our clinical trial work and some targeted healthcare initiatives. Certainly, I know from my perspective, I'd welcome any input on to whether there's some connectivity and collaboration. More than happy to have a chat at any time. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I'd welcome any questions as we progress.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate we've got a small and engaged group there today, so it's always easy to jump out there, but I can see Scott, Jake, Barry on the call. Probably, guys, I'm happy to lead off. In terms of the opportunity here and the potential sort of market size that you're sort of looking at, interested to sort of understand that a little bit more in terms of where you are now, obviously going through that capital raising process, but there's clearly investment dollars backing up where this is going. What does that sort of look like in terms of this industry and where you see that sort of heading into the future?
I think from my perspective, I would say there's in the medicinal cannabis industry, there are varying groups within the supply chain. For Medigrowth, it's very much within that biopharmaceutical space that we're taking the next phase to on our capital raising and on our long-term strategy on how we can utilise the unregistered medicine space, as we're doing now with products being sold into market, and how we can then potentially help to support and fund some of our research endeavours. In terms of what that market looks like, I think ultimately that's where we see the market to be for Medigrowth. If you look globally, for example, for example, in the pediatric or in autism, not just pediatrics, but in autism, that's a global market. It's something that's seeing more and more focus in terms of potential interventions. It's certainly something that I think is not something that always needs therapeutics, but it's something that there is a market with figures ranging on the low side from a $2 billion market annually, with numbers running up from different sources right up to $30-odd billion annually globally. And that's not just encompassing therapeutic interventions, that's encompassing a whole range of services to the autism market, for example. But I think the World Health Organization suggested there was 1 in 127 odd people globally diagnosed with autism. And that converts to, I think in one of the other things I was reading, 60-odd million people globally that are a potential cohort for intervention. And not every person on the spectrum requires, wants or needs intervention, but many do and many families do. And I think that's where we see the opportunity on that particular cohort. But as we've said many times, that's that's the very first initiative for Medigrowth in terms of clinical trial work. And there are, as you saw in one of those slides, 200 plus indications that warrant, further serious research.
To just add to that too, one of the symptoms or the significant findings that we had there was around reduction in anxiety. So I think if we're looking at total addressable markets globally and looking at anxiety, total addressable or total saleable addressable markets, regardless, I think anxiety is a huge factor in societal sort of difficulties. And if we're looking at a product that's non-intoxicating, is safe and effective, regardless of the other medications or therapeutics a patient might be on, I think that opportunity is nearly endless.
Yeah. And I might just chime in just to finish that off. I suppose that what's unique about Medigrowth in comparison to many of the other Australian operators is it has a successful growing product distribution business, as Adam explained, and that is now, on the cusp of profitability and cash flow positive and really funding itself and the growth that's coming from there. So the capital that we're, trying to raise now is from strategic funding partners who specifically are comfortable with that clinical trial program and the digital health aspect of things. There's many ways to go about it. It's the public markets, and there's a lot of ASX listed cannabis companies. Very few of them have been successful from a share price perspective and a return. The ones that have actually been successful are the ones that have remained private to date. And again, I think that's a credit to Adam and Todd to have. It's about timing, and doing an IPO is always an option, but it's one more distraction from growing your business. So, we are definitely looking at, whether it's high net worth individuals, strategic investors, private equity, and always open to that private side of the market. So, but with very clear focus on that clinical trial and the digital platform development. So different to others that are trying to fund their operating engine. Again, I think, Todd, as you've seen, it's quite a lean, mean machine, and that's proven successful to date. So the investment appetite for the industry has, in one sense, has been tarnished a little bit by the ASX listed companies, but investors realise this is a real market. We are a biotech, healthcare, life sciences business. And that's where there's interest, but always interested in talking with individuals, organisations, and strategic partners.
With those partners, through the presentation, obviously you spoke really heavily about Deakin and the Deakin Woodponds campus, and that seems like a really strong partnership and entrenching the company, I guess, into the Geelong region. I saw the City Grey Geelong logo there as well. So as this grows, as this industry grows, as your business grows, and that concept plan at the moment comes to life, what does that look like in terms of actual opportunities within Geelong across the broader business and corporate sector, I guess, in terms of other opportunities, in terms of partners, in terms of supply? I think, and look within even just this room of people that are on this call, people that have will be watching the recording of this at a later time. That's often one of the things from a Committee for Geelong perspective that we're really interested in, our members are really interested in, is what does this actually, and could this mean in terms of opportunity within the city?
I think, it starts with certainly that proposed development there on the co-located site. I think we've certainly spoken of that as really the launching pad to how that might integrate Medigrowth very much into the landscape. And if you look at any GMP, even from inception, just in terms of construction of that facility, that's a huge local, regional input in terms of jobs and economic development. But longer term, I think we're looking at skill sets, for example, we're aware of GMP manufacturing facilities elsewhere in the country that have been in regional areas, but probably the wrong regional areas, for example, that aren't or don't have the ability to attract skill sets and skilled workers. So we see this as a real opportunity to be bringing high quality skill sets and professionals to be working and running an operation like that Centre of Excellence. But beyond that, it's always been Todd and my vision that centre is very much an enabler for global research. And we keep saying Australia has really the best global positioning for high quality research. We've got all of the requisite institutions and skill sets to really support the ideas. Obviously, they're all funding dependent, but there's a great government sort of connectivity and support for many of those programs through things like MRFF and some of the support networks through the government positioning. And really, we keep saying if that facility stands tall down there in the Geelong region, we had a meeting only a couple of days ago with a Canadian industry participant who are looking for positions in Australia to drive some of that research and drive some of those opportunities. So I think we keep saying that's a destination to draw out global research, to draw out companies that are looking for the very favourable R&D tax environment, for example, here in Australia. And with that, I think we're then in a position to be drawing in all of the surrounding and networked healthcare, the public healthcare networks. Obviously, the hospital is in the same precinct that we're in down there. I think there are so many connectivities that we could really look at what could Medigrowth do on its digital health technology platform, for example, that would drive research that would ultimately end up in that Centre of Excellence. So we see very much a closed loop to how that could drive economic and social impact, positive impact in the region.
Looking at the straight jobs and growth, there's everything from blue collar, whether it be somebody who's working on inbound, outbound goods, logistics, analytical and professional staff around quality assurance, and that sort of thing. So I think the breadth and depth of the type of talent and people we would need, the human resource to be able to have that operation sort of tick over is something that would definitely benefit sort of grassroots in society down there.
Yeah, terrific. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'll probably close with this one. We're seeing the potential market size here, which is significant, and you've spoken around, particularly going down a path around things like autism and anxiety, and we're seeing that the rates of these diagnoses, really, really going up. We're seeing the opportunity in terms of, from a Geelong perspective, and the organisation being entrenched and anchored here and being able to deliver on it. We've heard the story of the origins of the business growth and of where you're sort of at in terms of from a investor level. What's the next step in terms of what needs to happen here to be able to take us from where we're at to be able to realise that opportunity that we see there?
There's some incremental steps, and I think many of those things are happening regardless and organically here in the business. I think to drive the full vision that Medigrowth sees and believes in, there's a capital injection is the next phase of growth for us. To become a serious player in clinical trial pathways beyond just the original trial that we're involved in. There is a capital raising strategy that we're certainly working on currently. And that then, I think, as we're finding in many of the conversations we're having, there's very much a big milestone in terms of catalysts for revaluations and a host of things that come with phase 3 results. And I think for Medigrowth, as we progress, that would be the next major positioning for Medigrowth if we're in a position to have a favourable phase 3 clinical trial results on our first clinical trial. And I think that would then very much set us up for legitimacy in the sense that, that's one of many that we'll be pursuing. And in the background, I think that digital health platform, Azure Health, will play a very big part, because we're seeing that really as ownership within the market of really legitimising the space across healthcare professionals and legitimate research. So part of the launch of that particular platform incorporates the Empower project, which is the phase 2 of our longitudinal trial that will be running through to 2029. And what we want to do with that is really target specific patient cohorts. And I think by doing that, we can put ourselves in a position of really legitimising data that then can drive into clinical trials. So ultimately, there's a lot happening that's already happening, but I think the next phase is really a funding phase to allow us to fully take the reins.
Thanks, Adam. Apologies there. I could see a rapidly diminishing battery on my laptop that was suddenly went from saying I had about 42 minutes to having about 6 minutes, seemingly in the space of about 5. So go figure. Thank you so much for that. Barry, Jack, Scott, have you had any questions, Barry?
Just one question, and that is, like I work for Arab, we can't help you with actually getting the capital, but we do work with organisations at this phase around, providing engineering, I guess, for the infrastructure. Do you need partnerships? I guess are there pieces that would help you with, are there pieces that would help you with the capital raising that you need? I guess. Or do you feel you have it all in hand and you're just waiting for that, waiting for the market to see it?
There's definitely some work to be done there on that next phase of development in the planning phase. So much of the energy has been put into this early design process, but there's certainly more work to be done on that front. So it's definitely something we'll have to check out, of course.
Terrific. Well, look, if there was nothing else there, then look, thank you so much, Adam, Todd, Brett, for your time today, for taking us on the journey of your business and your industry. As I said at the start, this is a big subcategory of a very, very big industry when you're thinking about medical research, and particularly the ability that you've been able to tap into the knowledge base that sits within Geelong, and your commitment and investment into growing this out of the Geelong region, I think, is something that we should all be really, really interested in and across. And, Barry, to your point there, I think that you'll find as you integrate into the Geelong community and the business community there, that there will be many doors that people are willing to open. And so these are important conversations to try and expand that out. We've recorded this. We had a few registrations that have had to not been able to make it at the last moment, but they'll get a copy of this. So if you're watching this on the recording as well, please feel free to reach out and we can facilitate any introductions that may exist. Thank you as well for those of you that joined us today. And look, we'll look forward to continuing to host our industry insights. And next one coming up will be next month, which is in relation to offshore wind and opportunities within the Geelong region through the Geelong Renewables Terminal project that Geelong Port have got there. That will be more information going out very, very soon. And before that as well, just a little reminder that we do have our annual general meeting coming up in a couple of weeks on Thursday, the 6th of November. Following which we will be launching and premiering the Streets Discovered documentary on Geelong, which we have facilitated and commissioned, which will be a great insight into the changing face of Geelong, and I guess some changing perceptions of Geelong that have been occurring, and really trying to target that to an audience. We know that this is part of a series of other similar documentaries on some other areas. The most recent one on Frankston, and Alan, you may be able to correct me, but last I heard it was somewhere around the 150 to 180,000 views already on YouTube of that documentary. So getting some really good cut through and traction, and we're sure when you see some of the familiar faces known to many within the community space that make an appearance in that documentary, it'll be no doubt pushing north of 200,000 plus views very quickly. So thanks everyone for jumping on board. If there's anyone that would like, as I said, an introduction facilitated off the back of this, please do just reach out to me on email and I can do that.
Medigrowth team again, thanks guys for making yourselves available today.
Very well.
Thank you, everyone.